Okay, everybody, we are live. We're live. Very excited about that. We're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, and we're also on TikTok. So, what have we learned today? Well, you can see in the document above my head, we've learned at least 9 things, probably more. Or actually, do I not have 7 there? I did this in such a hurry. I guess we have 8. Indy's pass defense, not so great. Caleb Williams of Chicago had he had 363 yards, I think. He had over 350 yards. Thanks, everybody on TikTok, for joining. Just talking about some of the updates coming from the NFL today, things we've learned so far. Indy's pass defense, not so great. Caleb Williams, as I said, had over 350 yards. Cleveland just makes other teams look good. Juwan Jennings seems to be Purdy's target, already has 1 touchdown today. Pittsburgh is for real, and Fields passing or the offense for Pittsburgh is not as conservative as I had initially thought. He passed for 245 yards today. Before that, it was said that they'll be very conservative and all those kinds of things, but 245 yards is relatively legit considering people are passing for 100 or less. You look at Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay, just we'll roll right into that. Baker and Evans both had bad days for, hey, Christina. Baker and Evans had bad days for Tampa Bay, so maybe they're not as legit. I was pretty high on them. I was high on Carr. Everybody wanted Akers this week. Akers did not have a good game for Houston. He did not fill the role of Mixon, so they have some. They're probably hoping that Mixon gets well and can start next week or pretty soon. Hello, Colton. Thanks for joining. Nathan, thanks for joining on TikTok. Joshua, thanks for joining. Hughes, thanks. Tyson, Daniel, thank you all very much for joining. If you have any questions or any updates, I'm just going to be filling in what I have up on the screen or just things that I've learned so far today. Goddard with the Eagles. Hey, the Footy Bros, thanks for joining. Glad to have you on board on looks like YouTube. Thank you. But it looks like Goddard with A.J. Brown already injured and Devonta Smith suffering a bad concussion today. It looks like Phillies might have found someone to throw to, or Hurts specifically. Goddard had, 170 yards as a tight end. No touchdowns, but big numbers. Amari Cooper seems to be the one saving grace for all of Cleveland. He's had 2 touchdowns today. So don't forget, if you're watching, listening, whatever it might be, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on TikTok, hit that follow button. Would love to hear more. If you have anything, please put it in the chat. My sister's dog has, okay, that's great. Way to go. I'm not even, we're deleting that comment. All right. So we got creepers on all lines. Anything else that anybody wants to talk about? Anything? Now, I will say, if anyone has listened to me before, I was very high on Carr. I was very high on Baker Mayfield. Both of them had kind of a down day today. So probably my thoughts moving forward with them is to, wait and see, think about the matchups. Right now, the Seahawks are leading the Dolphins 17-3. Let's take a deep dive in there and see what's going on. All right, it looks like Geno Smith's having a big day. He has 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 133 yards. Charbonneau has 1 touchdown, only 23 yards rushing. He also has 5 yards receiving. But DK Metcalf has already 93 yards receiving, and he scored a touchdown. So DK Metcalf is having a big, big day. Matt LaFleur is a top coach. Okay. Yeah, well, Isaiah, I'm not going to disagree with you. So yeah, no, Seattle looks like they're having a big day. Now, when it comes to Miami, who Seattle is playing, Skylar Thompson has 47 yards passing. Nobody has over 9 yards rushing. And Devon Atchan has 22 yards receiving, and Waddle only has 18 yards receiving. Tyreek doesn't even have a catch, and he only's been targeted once. So as I've sort of alluded to, I think Tyreek and I think all of Miami Ian, hello. How are you? Holland, how are you? These are some folks over at TikTok. Hello. You know who is on over at TikTok? Sammy's on at TikTok. James just joined us. If you have any questions, let me know right now. Though Seattle's leading Miami 17-3, and it's looks like it's a pretty good day for both DK Metcalf, DK Metcalf, Geno Smith, and even Zach Charbonnet. Although Charbonnet doesn't have a lot of yards rushing, he does have a touchdown. Geno Smith has 135 yards passing. DK Metcalf already at 93 yards and a touchdown, 93 yards receiving. Considering Mixon and Akers, well, what do we want to consider about them, Tyler? The way I look at it is I would wait till Mixon comes back. Akers basically laid an egg today, Tyler. So it's basically it's not looking really good for Akers moving forward. I mean, maybe if they have to start him next week, maybe he can get his feet underneath him and put up a decent game. But today, it's that fear. It's whatever I told everyone. You don't think Mixon would have done that much better? Probably not. You're probably right about that. But I know that this doesn't help Akers at all because he was sort of an unknown, Tyler. And so having a bad day, people either will be, dropping him or definitely not picking him up or even recommending him for next week. So it kind of hurts that way because if you think about it, he only probably has Mixon's not out that long, I don't think. So he only has a couple weeks maybe where he can start. And so he didn't really solidify any of that today. So yeah, I don't know that Mixon would have done much better. I do tend to agree with that. So good point. Vikings defense was stellar. Vikings just had a great game. I mean, the Vikings, they just had a very, very good game. Right now, I would put them as one of the, legit teams. I was thinking the Saints might be that legit team, but I'm not going to put them there. I don't think that they really had, they scored one touchdown and, only scored 12 points after scoring 90 in the first two games. So they're not quite there. Yeah. Vikings defense was good. Update Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings already has a touchdown. Let's see. I'll go to their game right now. Seattle still leads Miami 17-3. Let's go to the 49ers. 49ers now lead the Rams 14-0. Actually, I guess you're alluding to this, right? Thick boy. Jennings has 2 touchdowns right now and 51 yards. So Jennings is putting up monster numbers as of right now. So, if you picked him up, if you put him into play, that was a really good decision. I think I recommended him depending upon the situation. Did I figure that he would score 2 touchdowns? No. Now he has 51 yards receiving. Maybe it's still the first half, so maybe he gets to 100. Let's see what else. Okay, so 49ers lead 14-0. Rams are not doing well at all. The Panthers, now this is a surprise, but they put a new quarterback in, and that's what changes the tide sometimes. The Panthers lead 14-7 against the Raiders, and Andy Dalton has 2 passing touchdowns. One to Deontay Johnson. And am I going to get an update? I have to go to the game to get the update, but let me see right here. Okay. Full box scores. Let's go full box scores. Okay. Carolina leads the Raiders 14-7. Andy Dalton has 124 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, which is unbelievable. Much better than Young. Chuba Hubbard has 50 yards rushing, and Deontay Johnson has 45 yards receiving and a touchdown. And Chuba actually caught a touchdown pass, so he has a touchdown receiving. The Raiders, Alexander Madison scored their only touchdown on a run, and Minshew is 4 for 7 with 80 yards, no touchdowns thrown, and no interceptions as of right now. So not a bad job, but Carolina leads 14-7. Now let's go over to, and I'm going to just jump over to, okay, StreamYard. Nobody's giving me any questions. Great. Let's see right now. I can change on StreamYard pretty easily the scoreboard. I'll put the scoreboard up as we go through it right here. I'm just going on ESPN. All right. So you can see it right. You should be able to see it all right there. I'll make it a little bit bigger so it's easier. Oh boy, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah. Okay, so right now, Seattle leads the Dolphins 17-3 in the second. The Lions and Cardinals are tied at 7 in the second. The Panthers leading the Raiders in the second, 14-7. And Andy Dalton has 2 touchdown passes in that game. So quarterbacks do make a difference. Okay, here we go. End of the first quarter. Ravens leading the Cowboys 14-3. Kind of what I thought, because I feel like Baltimore 0-2 needs this win. Now, Dallas doesn't want to go down 1-2, but Baltimore needs this victory. Lamar Jackson has 86 yards passing. Prescott has 82 yards passing. Lamar Jackson has 25 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. He leads the Ravens in rushing. So the quarterback's doing it all down there, which I kind of figured. I really figured that he would be leading in all directions, because the Ravens, like I said, being 0-2, they're not an 0-2 kind of team. Dottle has 18 yards rushing on 4 carries. And let's see. Let me look on reception. I'm just going to go to the box score. So we have Lamar Jackson, 86 yards passing, Prescott, 82. Let's see. We have touchdowns on Baltimore from Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. So Derrick Henry has just 13 yards rushing, but he does have a touchdown, which is something we really wanted to see, because mainly he has not been doing very much in last week's game. So Derrick Henry now part of that offense, which is phenomenal and fantastic. So let me do something here. I'm going to try to swap out if I can. Yeah. We're going to make this a little bit different so our friends on TikTok can see that. All right. Let me just make sure. Yeah. And actually, yeah, okay. I'll move this back a little bit. Should give us, yeah. Come on, silly thing. Sorry for that, everybody. There we go. All right. So Ravens up 14-3. Let's see what else. I got to make this smaller now, don't I? Okay. 49ers up 14-0. Let's look at that Lions and Cardinals game right now. We have, the Lions are up 13-7. Let's look at that real quick. Let me jump to the box score. Lions up 13-7. Goff is 7 for 7 with 72 yards and touchdown. So he threw to somebody. David Montgomery has 39 yards rushing with 1 touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs has 34 yards rushing. All right. Arizona, Kyler Murray is perfect, 4 for 4. So both quarterbacks are perfect. And Kyler Murray has 1 touchdown. Kyler Murray leads the Cardinals in rushing with 34 yards. Marvin Harrison having another pretty good day so far. 26 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown has 36 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. So this game is really going sort of the way that I thought that it would. I like I expect the Lions to win. I expect Amon-Ra and MHJ or Marvin Harrison Jr., however you want to call him, to have good days. I even kind of think that Sam Laporta might have a good day. He only has 20 or not 20, 12 yards receiving. David Montgomery has a touchdown. He has 39 yards running. Kyler Murray actually leads the Cardinals in rushing with 34 yards. So this game's going about the way that I thought. The Lions obviously leading. I expect the Lions to win this game, but I expect the Cardinals. I expect Kyler Murray to have a Kyler Murray kind of day. I expect Marvin Harrison to be his target. I expect St. Brown to be the target for Goff. I expect David Brown to put up some points, and they're doing that as of right now. So this is going to be a fun game. It might be. We have 12 and a half minutes left in the second quarter. It's 13-7. So this could be a higher scoring game. Now, what do you mean by higher scoring? It could be, a 35-28 kind of game, something like that, something close to that. So that's very exciting. A lot of time left in the second quarter. All right, let's go back and look at some of the other scores, see if anybody changed. Sorry about all the jumping back. Okay, Seahawks still up 17-3. Oh, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights says happy Sunday. Daniel, we say happy Sunday to you too. Daniel is on YouTube. Daniel, we are on YouTube. We are on Twitch. And I'm also streaming from TikTok. So don't forget to like. And if you haven't, don't forget to follow on TikTok. Don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube and Twitch. Would love to get you on board. I try to go live with fantasy football on Wednesdays. I went live last night because I didn't have anywhere to go and hopefully help some people out, although I was still hot on Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. So I think I'm going to have some complaints, sometime today or tomorrow from some folks. But I thought Baker Mayfield might have turned the corner, might have been a little legit, but losing so big, and really being dominated by Denver is not a good thing for Tampa Bay. And I think New Orleans was sent back down to earth today as well. I was really high on Derek Carr rather. And I think he's been moved back down to earth. All right. The Panthers still lead the Raiders 14-7. Andy Dalton, as I said, has 2 throwing touchdowns. So a quarterback, as I said earlier, does make a big difference. The Ravens taking it to the Cowboys, kind of what I expected, 14-3. The Niners all over the Rams, but the story with the Niners really, outside of anything Brock Purdy really does, because he's just a fun story in a lot of ways, being the last picked and all that, which everybody knows about already. But he has 2 throwing touchdowns, 96 yards only, but both of them have gone to Juwan Jennings, who has stepped in and is the number 1 target now, it seems like, for Brock Purdy. So if he's available in your fantasy leagues, pick him up. If you didn't start him, okay, you can't start him now, but look to start him next week because the injuries aren't getting any better in San Francisco. And he has 51 yards receiving, like I said, 2 touchdowns, and his long play is 34 yards. And I believe, let me just look this up real quick. Yeah, he's 6'3", so he's a pretty good height out there to catch that, especially for a wide receiver at 6'3". That's pretty darn tall. When you start going to 6'5" and all that, usually you end up being a tight end. So he's a big target for Purdy to get in the ball. Now Stafford is having a really bad day, but as we expected, Kyron Williams is the offense for the Rams. He has 40 yards rushing on 8 carries. So he's averaging that would be 5 yards a carry. His long is 13. Are there any games you want to take a look at? I know we have a bunch of people watching. Don't forget again to hit that like button on YouTube and Twitch. Hit subscribe. I do a lot with fantasy. I go live a lot during the NFL season. And then on TikTok, hit that follow button. You'll know a lot of the lives that I do are TikTok exclusively, just because I get a lot more people, a lot more questions on TikTok, and it takes up, it takes up all my time. Lots of questions on TikTok. So please send me any information. All right. We talked about Juwan Jennings. Oh, geez. I'm sorry. I had 99 messages on TikTok okay. Thoughts on Wan'Dale Robinson. Thoughts on Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay. Let me look up Okay. I have to go over here. I have a couple screens open. Okay. Wan'Dale. I think Wan'Dale Robinson, okay, they played Cleveland. He got a few more points. He's a steady, well, technically he's a steady 8 points, Jackson. So he's a steady 8 points. He's someone that's kind of emerging and someone that you might be able to pick up, in your fantasy league. So I think that, when you look around at like the Mike Evans and things like that, and there for a while, or this past week, everybody was stuck on London and Tank. London and Tank. I got tons of questions on them. Tank came up, laid sort of a goose egg or close to it this weekend. But someone like Robinson here for the Giants, he might be someone to pick up because he's giving you at least 8 points every week that he's played. And that's a heck of a lot better than 2 or 3 points or 1 point, something that Tank might give you. People in fantasy chase the names. There's a Monday Night Football game and everybody dissects it on Tuesday morning, and about the third string, the fourth string players, about all that kind of stuff. But you got to look at somebody like Robinson with the Giants here, who week in and week out has averaged at least or scored at least 8 points in fantasy. So yeah, there's something to be said about that. All right. Luke says, dude, I'm happy my team won 2-1. Or my team won, his record's 2-1. That's great, Luke. Way to go. Any advice you want to give any of us, just let us know. I started Parkinson. Let's see. Well, I don't know who else you have, so that might be a good thing. That might be a bad thing. It just depends on who else you have. I just want to say hello to Gavin. Hello to Alan. There's a bunch of people on TikTok I haven't said hello to. I don't know who's still there. Hello to Evan, if you're still there. Obviously, Jackson, Luke, Lucas, all those people over on TikTok. Hello. Any questions from the people from Twitch or YouTube? Let me go back to the scores here and see if anything's changed. Probably not. Let me update this because it still has the Lions. Yeah, there we go. The Lions and Cardinals still 13-7. Yeah, nothing's really changed. We can look into the Ravens Cowboys a little bit. Let's look at the box score. Lamar Jackson 3 for 3 with 90 yards passing. Dak Prescott 8 for 13 with 91 yards passing. Lamar Jackson has 34 yards rushing in a touchdown. Derrick Henry has 20 yards rushing and a touchdown. Not much for Dallas. Ezekiel Elliott has just 4 yards on 1 carry. Rico Dowdle has 18 yards on 4 carries. Baltimore receiving. Nelson Aguilar is 56 yards on 1 reception, so a long reception there. And CD has 27 yards on 2 carries. His long was 18. So let's see. Any other, we talked about, do you think Bryce Young was the problem? Luke, I don't think that Bryce Young was necessarily the problem. I mean, whenever you have a younger quarterback, it it's hard to get acclimated to the speed of the NFL. Now, I know that he played last year. I know that he did not have a great record. One of the issues is he might have been real kind of small for that position. Sometimes everything doesn't translate. Sometimes the offensive schemes that you're in are not ones that you may be comfortable with or feel very comfortable with. Or, and Andy Dalton is sort of this journeyman veteran who had some success with, Cincinnati and some other teams, mostly playing a backup recently, but he's been around, and I think he's a little bit more comfortable. He doesn't have that stress that a number one pick has. When you're number one, a lot is expected of you from the fans, from the team, from the coaches, from your teammates. And, sometimes it's a change of location. So, yeah, I mean, for the most part, it looks like the only change has been the quarterback. So, Luke, I would say that Bryce Young probably was holding back the Panthers. They weren't at their optimal offensive output with Bryce Young at quarterback. Now, and like I said, Andy Dalton early in his career had some degrees of success, I believe, with Cincinnati before Burrow came along. So something to look at. And he went to not SMU. The other Texas school, the Frogs. I can't think of the name, but yeah. So, I mean, he had a pretty good college career, and, and he did well with Cincinnati. So but here's the thing with Bryce Young, it might not have been talent based. It might've been, he put too much pressure on himself. He was maybe a little stressed out. He was forcing plays. Maybe the speed, he hadn't caught up to it. Somebody like him might have a change of scenery the way Baker Mayfield did and Derek Carr, and things may bloom or blossom for him. Now, Baker and Carr were kind of sent back to earth today, but those things happen. I mean, I didn't expect Baker Mayfield or Derek Carr to be the second coming of Tom Brady, but maybe do a little bit better than they did. So let's check those scores. Any other questions? All right. People are probably just watching the football games, but let's check the scores. I know everybody likes that. Let me just update everything here. All right. Panthers and Raiders still 14-7. Nothing has changed. We have 2 minutes left in the first half between the Panthers and Raiders. Panthers lead 14-7. And it's right now all, the whole story there is Andy Dalton. The Ravens on top of the Cowboys with just over 9 minutes left in the first half, 14-3. The Niners and Brock Purdy thrown to Jawan Jennings is up 14-0. Jennings has 2 touchdown receptions. The Lions up 13-7 over the Cardinals with about 7 minutes left in the first half. And with just a little over 3 minutes left, the Seahawks still lead the Dolphins 17-3. Let's look at that real quick. The story there is, I believe, let's go back to the box score here. DK Metcalf is having a big day receiving. Hold on. Where is everything here? Yeah, DK Metcalf, still stuck at 93 yards, but 1 touchdown. So he'll be putting up some good numbers as of right now. So, all right. We just have a few people still on TikTok. I don't know if Luke is still there or not. We're closing in on halftime. People are probably really paying attention to all of the games here as they wind down in the first half, which makes a lot of sense. Let's look back at the big scoreboard again. We have the 2-minute warning, Panthers Raiders. If you're the Raiders, you got to be a little annoyed because you probably looked at this game a week or two ago and thought Bryce Young quarterbacking, easy win, but they changed to Andy Dalton. And I figured it would be a positive for them, just how bad Bryce Young had been. Little did I know that he would already have 2 passing touchdowns. Let's look at this game a little bit closer, see if anything has changed. Okay, Andy Dalton, 12 for 18, 144 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Let's see. Minshew, 5 for 9, 86 yards, no TDs, no interceptions. Hubbard has 50 yards rushing. Deontay Johnson has 45 yards receiving for Carolina and 1 touchdown. And Trey Tucker for the Raiders has 54 yards receiving. And Zamir White, 30 yards rushing for Vegas. So really, not a lot going on. Alexander Madison ran for the only touchdown by the Raiders in the first half, and he only has 7 total yards rushing. So not a lot of offense for the Raiders so far. Trying to see if I can get a total on their offense. Yeah. The Raiders have punted twice. Carolina's punted 3 times. All right, 14-7. Now 1:38 left in the second. The Raiders have the ball. Trying to figure out where they might have the ball. Let's look at the game cast. Raiders have the ball on their 20-yard line. All right, let's go back to the scores, the scoreboard. I got to keep going, don't I? All right. With just 4 minutes left in the second half, or first half, second quarter rather, Seattle still leading Dolphins 17-3. Last we checked in, let's look at that real quick. Tyreek was basically not even a factor, but let's see if he has picked up anything here. Miami receiving. Yeah, Tyreek has been targeted twice, but has no receptions. Waddle has 23 yards. Achan has 22 yards receiving and 21 yards rushing. Zach Charbonnet for Seattle has a touchdown and 27 yards rushing. DK Metcalf for Seattle has a touchdown with 93 yards receiving. He's caught the ball twice. And I see. I can't get to that target line. He's been targeted twice. All right. Okay, let's look at some other scores while we're at it. Doesn't look like much has changed. Let me just refresh all this real quickly for everybody. Okay. Ravens still over the Cowboys 14-3. 49ers over the Rams. The big story there is Juwan Jennings has 2 touchdown receptions from Brock Purdy, obviously. The Lions still leading the Cardinals with just under 6 minutes in the first half. It looks like the Panthers Raiders are going to get the halftime first. They have 1:23 left in the first half. And the Cowboys have the ball with 8:34 left in the second quarter, but it's 4th and 13. What is that, a punt? It's got to be a punt, right? Yeah, ball on Dallas. Dallas has the ball. They're on Dallas's 7. Yep, they punt it. Ravens take it back to pretty close to midfield. All right. So the Ravens offense will take over with about 8:14 left in the second quarter. And the Ravens, sort of that do or die win today. They're 0-2. They're not really an 0-2 team. They haven't played great, but it looks like they're getting Derrick Henry in the game. He has a touchdown, not a lot of yards rushing, but he has at least a touchdown today. So he is getting involved, which when you have a Hall of Famer like that, you want to get them involved. Let's see other scores here. Well, that keeps popping up. The Eagles 15 The Saints 12. Now I'm jumping all over the place. Sorry about that, everybody. Oh, man, more sports. Let's look. All right. Yeah, nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. All right, let's go back to for the people who are just kind of joining us. I had this up earlier. I will minimize this. I'm putting that up for the folks on TikTok. Oh boy, I'm getting warm up here. Let me share my screen for the folks on YouTube and Twitch. These are just some things that I'd learned before or right when I started the live stream today. It's Indy's pass defense is pretty bad. Caleb Williams, who I wouldn't say is, Patrick Mahomes, passed for like 363 yards, well over 350 yards. Cleveland really makes any team good, but if you jump down to number 8 there, you'll see that Amari Cooper might be the only really good thing about Cleveland from a fantasy perspective. He had 2 touchdowns today receiving. The Eagles, although Devonta Smith suffered a concussion today and A.J. Brown was already out, so they had 2 wide receivers, two big targets for Hurts to throw to. They might have found one of their targets today in Goddard, the tight end, who I think had 170 yards or something close to that receiving. Akers was filling in for Mixon for Houston, did not live up to it. They lost big to the Vikings. So, and someone said earlier that they thought Mixon probably couldn't have done much better than Akers. Maybe he could have, maybe he couldn't have. The problem is no one's going to have any faith in Akers coming into next week if Mixon is still out. The hope was that you pick up Akers, he does a pretty good job, and then you can play him again next week or while Mixon's out. But you can't really do that because he had such a bad day. I'm just going from bottom to up now. Tampa Bay, fakers, Baker and Faker, Baker the Faker, Faker the Baker. I don't know, however you want to say it. Maybe they're not as good as I had thought. Maybe they're not as good as a lot of the national prognosticators thought. Them and New Orleans, I think, were sent back down to earth today. Tampa Bay really, in my mind, took a blow because Denver is not that good of a team, but they kind of put a whooping on them. So they, Evans had a really bad day. I thought that he would maybe get 6 to 8 points. I think he got under 3 today. The offense in Pittsburgh, all I'd been hearing all week was that Justin Fields, the offense in Pittsburgh was very conservative for Justin Fields. He threw for 245 yards today. So couldn't have been that. It can't be that conservative, and they had a good game. They weren't playing a patsy or anything. Juwan Jennings, well, he actually has 2 touchdowns. Let me change that. He had 1 when I wrote it. So Juwan Jennings seems to be Purdy's target in San Francisco. So there you are with some of the updates. Oh, here we go. Canadian Miss, Footballer Nick is live. Hi, Footballer Nick. Canadian Music says, I hate both teams, but I like the Panthers a bit more. Don't kill me with the Saints score. Yeah, I won't tell you, but the Saints did not live up to their name. No, move your screen up. I can't. Okay. Canadian Miss, I guess when I was showing some things on the screen was not happy. It was probably the Philly Saints, the 15-12 score. So I'm sorry about that, Canadian Music, if you're still around. Anybody have any questions on TikTok? I know TikTok, we're kind of slower. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, hit that subscribe, hit those likes on TikTok. Hit the follow on TikTok. I go live every Wednesday night. I went live last night talking fantasy. I go live Wednesdays talking fantasy on TikTok. I'm obviously live right now on TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. I went live on TikTok on Thursday night, sort of right before the Thursday night game. So I'm always around for those kinds of things. So if you have a question on any of this, let me know. Let's check in with the scores right now. Let me switch this all around. And it's my face. I wouldn't say beautiful. All right. So, all right, the Panthers now are up 21-7. That's been the only change in a little bit of time. Let's look at what has been going on here. Andy Dalton, 212 yards in the first half, 3 touchdowns. So someone had asked earlier, Luke, I don't know if you're still around, but you'd asked, was Bryce Young the problem? Well, it looks almost definitely that he is. Deontay Johnson has a touchdown receiving. Adam Thielen or probably Thielen, actually. Adam Thielen has 40 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. And Chuba Hubbard has 11 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. So the Panthers are taking it to the Raiders right now with 28 seconds left in the second quarter. It's not looking so good for the Raiders. The Raiders do have the ball, though, only 27 seconds left. I'm not sure who gets it in the second half. Now 19 seconds. So maybe the Raiders are taking a knee. No, it looks like they called a timeout. So maybe they're going to try to do something. Let's see. Where do they have the ball? They have the ball. The Raiders have the ball on Carolina's 49-yard line. So they're probably thinking, hey, can we at least, get in the area to kick a field goal? All right. Any other questions or anything like that from the people from YouTube or Twitch? It's just interesting because while the games are going on, I'm not getting the questions. I'm so used to all the fancy questions on TikTok. But the Panthers lead with 19 seconds left in the second quarter, 21-7. Let's look at any of the other scoreboards here, see if anything's changed. All right. This is old. With a minute 15 left, 49ers still over the Rams, 14-0. The big story there is Juwan Jennings has 2 touchdown receptions. The Ravens, with just under 5 minutes left, or with just under 5 minutes left in the first half against the Cowboys in Dallas, lead 14-3. The Panthers, as we said, are leading the Raiders 21-7, 19 seconds left. Raiders have the ball. Lions beating the Cardinals with 2 minutes left in the first half, 13-7. And the Seahawks, with just under a minute left, are still leading the Dolphins 17-3. Oh, well, finally a change. Rams are on the board. Let's see. What was it? Kyren Williams pass from Matthew Stafford for 14 yards. Point is good. All right. So Kyren Williams, someone who I actually said might be the only thing good going for the Rams this weekend, did score a touchdown. It looks like it's a reception, not a run play. And he has the first points for the Rams in this game. So let's look at the box score. Stafford, 79 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Kyren Williams has 50 yards rushing, but then he has 14 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. Juwan Jennings, as I mentioned, has 2 touchdowns for the 49ers and 51 yards receiving. Brandon Ayuk has 34 yards receiving and no touchdowns. Jordan Mason, just 30 yards rushing. Hoping for a little bit more from Jordan Mason today as well. 14-7. They were up. The Niners were up 14-0. So it's a closer game than it was just a few minutes ago. And if you're a 49ers fan, you got to hope that they, can put the Rams away a little bit here. They're a much better team than the Rams are, but just 2 touchdowns, I think, is kind of hurting them. All right, let's look at overall scores again, see if anybody scored or anything changed. Nope, nothing really changed. Let's see. We still have 19 seconds. Okay, 15 seconds left. Panthers, Raiders. Panthers up 21-7. Raiders have the ball. Ravens up 14-3 against the Cowboys. Just over 3 minutes left. Niners, Rams, 1 minute, 11 seconds. It's 14-7 49ers. And with 36 seconds left in the first half, the Lions lead the Cardinals 13-7. And we are at halftime as Seattle leads the Dolphins 17-3. Let's take a look at that while we're at it. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and definitely on TikTok, don't forget to follow because I have lots of streaming that I do on TikTok, especially when it comes to fantasy. Every Wednesday, I'm going to try to do it Thursday. I'd like to do it Sunday morning, probably not this week, but the following week. All right, let's look at this Dolphins Seahawks game because they're the first ones to halftime. As I said earlier, Seattle leads 17-3. For Miami, Skylar Thompson has just 79 yards passing, no interceptions, obviously no touchdowns. Geno Smith has 200 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. For Miami and their runners, Devon Achane has 21 yards rushing. And for Seattle, Zach Charbonneau leads the Seahawks with 35 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. Now, when it comes to receiving, Waddle and Achane both have 23 yards, and DK Metcalf is stuck at 93 yards, leading Seattle, and 1 touchdown. Let's see. Miami has had 1 fumble, but it wasn't lost. Seattle's had no fumbles. Oh, now it says 1 second left. Oh, that's weird. Okay, let's look at the scores again, as there are probably other halftime scores. All right. The Panthers lead the Raiders 21-7. It's halftime in Las Vegas. Let's look at. We know Andy Dalton has 3. Yes, that's right. Andy Dalton has 3 touchdown passes. He has 212 yards passing, while Minshew has 117 yards passing. So not a bad game from Minshew. Hubbard has 50 yards rushing for Carolina, while Zamir White leads Vegas with 30 yards. Alexander Madison for Vegas has their lone touchdown. It was a rushing touchdown. And the Panthers' other touchdowns came from Deontay Johnson, who has 80 yards receiving total, and Adam Thielen, who has 40 yards receiving. All right, so they're at halftime in Vegas. The Lions, I believe that's a change of score. They were up 13-7. Now it's 20-7 Lions. Game's getting out of hand now. David Montgomery for Detroit has 55 yards rushing and a touchdown. Kyler Murray leads the Cardinals in rushing with 37 yards. James Conner not having a very good day so far. 5 carries, 8 total yards. So not a typical day for him. I knew that Detroit would have, they're a better team. They would play better defense against the Cardinals, and it would affect them. I did not know that it would almost completely take Conner out of the game. Marvin Harrison Jr., though, for the Cardinals, has 26 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. So he's putting up some points, maybe not as many as he did last week. He's not on target for that unless maybe he gets a second touchdown. but still one touchdown. For Detroit, as I said, David Montgomery has a touchdown rushing, I guess, and 55 yards rushing. Amon-Ra St. Brown has 37 yards receiving and one touchdown. And Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back, actually has a receiving touchdown he has one receiving touchdown. He has 20 yards, but something is weird about this because it says Jahmyr Gibbs has 0 receptions, but he has 20 yards and a touchdown, and as long as 20. So let me refresh this. So something is not, yeah, it's still saying 0. I don't understand that. But the Lions lead with 17 seconds in Arizona, 20-7. All right. We're pretty much close to halftime with everybody. We got to be getting closer here. All right. We are in halftime. Panthers lead Raiders 21-7. Halftime, Seattle leads Dolphins 17-3. 2 minutes left. Ravens still on top of the Cowboys 14-3. And with 31 seconds left in the first half, the 49ers up 14-7. As I've said a number of times, Jawan Jennings is the real story there with 2 touchdown receptions. And the Lions are leading the Cardinals 20-7. Now, let me put something up on the screen I had a little bit earlier. Some of you have obviously probably seen this. Some have not. But let me put this up on the screen for everyone to see. These are just things that I learned right before I went online. Number one, Indy's pass defense is pretty bad. It allowed Caleb Williams of Chicago to pass for over 350 yards. I think he had a total of 363 yards, I believe. Cleveland makes all of its opponents look good. But if you jump down to number 8, Amari Cooper is the bright spot with Cleveland. He had 2 touchdowns today. So while I downgrade him because I'm always fearful of Deshaun Watson, he is still a top tier wide receiver and someone that we can't forget about. One of the big stories today, outside of Caleb Williams passing for 363 yards, to me, is the fact that the Eagles' Devonta Smith suffered a concussion, and their tight end Goddard had about around 170 yards receiving. So a big day for him, kind of a breakout for the tight end. Another story, Akers did not fill Mixon's shoes for Houston. They came up very short. And so that if Mixon is out next week, that still gives some doubt to those people who want to play Akers on their fantasy team. Tampa Bay might be a faker, even though they have Baker. They just came up really short today against Denver. Baker did not have a good day. I don't think he even scored 10 fantasy points. Mike Evans, the wide receiver, I don't think he scored 3 points. I think he was like 2.5. The offense in Pittsburgh, I've been hearing all week that, they had a baby offense. They were being conservative because of Justin Fields. Well, Justin Fields threw for 245 yards. Now, that's not 400 yards, but I wouldn't necessarily consider that conservative. So he might be stepping out of that conservative offense just a little bit here, which is probably a good thing for Pittsburgh in total, getting, opening things up for Najee to run and opening things up for their wide receivers. Jawan Jennings, the big story really for San Francisco, has already caught 2 touchdowns from Brock Purdy. And I think we talked about number 2. All right. Let's go back and check out the scoreboard. We can go back to some even earlier games. All right. Has anything changed? Yes, the Ravens now lead the Cowboys 20-3. Let's see what happened here. Now it's 21-3, so they kicked the extra point. All right. Lamar Jackson has 161 yards passing and 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Dak Prescott has just 109 yards passing, no touchdowns, but no interceptions. Derrick Henry leads the Ravens in rushing with 52 yards. Lamar Jackson, 39. Both of them have a touchdown running, both Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Rico Dowdle leads the Cowboys in rushing with 20 yards, which is not really much to brag about. Nelson Aguilar has 56 yards receiving for Baltimore, and Jake Ferguson for Dallas leads Dallas with 30 yards receiving. Now, Dallas does not have a touchdown, obviously. They've scored just 3 points. Can I get that in the frame? Yeah. Oh, boy. There we go. So it's 21-3. Ravens all over the Cowboys, but the Ravens really needed this game. They couldn't go down 0-3 because there was a stat that I saw that was some ridiculous number of 1,500 teams have gone 0-3 and only 1 have made the playoffs or something ridiculous like that. Let's look at the scoreboard again. All right. It looked like the Cardinals scored the Cardinals put on a field goal right before halftime, so they're down rather than 20-7, they're down 20-10. Seahawks still lead 17-3. Panthers 21-7. We talked about the Ravens, Cowboys, and the 49ers and Rams are 14-7. Let's go into earlier games. And don't forget, tonight, Chiefs take on the Falcons. It's the first away game for the Chiefs. This could be one of those trap games for the Chiefs. I think that Kirk Cousins probably is very confident going into this game, although Philly, played back and allowed a lot of the passing late in that game. They didn't want the deep pass, but they allowed the 10 to 12 to 15-yard pass. So let's see. The more I think about it, the more I do think the Chiefs are going to win. Earlier in the week, I really had a suspicion that the Falcons would, but I don't think they're going to get there. All right, we talked about these teams. These teams are all at halftime, except technically speaking, the Ravens at Cowboys. Earlier today, the Giants beat the Browns 21-15. The Packers all over the Titans 30-14. The Colts got by the Bears 21-16. That's the game where Caleb Williams, the Bears quarterback, threw for something like 363 yards. All right, Sean is on. Let's see. I don't know if Sean's still there, but Sean is on TikTok, and he said, I'm looking for all the Bear fans that said my Packers season was over after Love went down. Well, apparently they didn't realize what the backup quarterback could do. So the Packers are doing fantastic, Sean. So you got to be happy about that. Dobbins for Pollard, I think both of them had a bad day. So, what do you go for? Who do you get? Who do you give up? Is Zamir White injured? Good question. Let me look that up. Zamir White, Vegas. Okay. Well, that's not telling me anything. Hold on 1 second. We're looking to see if Zamir White. Yeah, Malik Willis for Green Bay had another good day. 202 yards passing, 13 of 19. He rushed 6 times for 73 yards. Sam Laporta for the Lions, needed a cart to go to the locker room. So it's an undisclosed injury as of right now. Alvin Kamara for the Saints had 26. He had 26 carries for 87 yards. And he had 40 yards receiving. I'm looking up. I'm not seeing anything for Zamir right now. And then for Chicago, Rome, is it Adunze? Rome Adunze? It's got to be Adunze. No, Adunze. He had 112 yards receiving and a touchdown in the loss. So he had a pretty good day. DeAndre Swift didn't do much. Yeah. Caleb Williams had 363 yards passing. Okay. The Vikings lambasted the Houston Texans 34-7, and that was the whole Akers. That's all I heard all week. Akers and Tank and Akers and Tank. Well, the Vikings showed them who was boss 34-7. I mean, not even close, not even halfway close. Like, they would have had another 10 points to be halfway. Philly squeaked by the Saints with a late touchdown, and then an interception spoiled the Saints' plans for a 3-0 start to the season. And the Eagles scored all 15 points in the fourth quarter. Very interesting. Hurts did a lot. Let's look into that game real quick. That was a great game to watch. Let me see. Should have gone to box score. Okay. Jalen Hurts was 29 of 38 with 311 yards. He had one interception. He did not throw for a touchdown. Saquon Barkley made up for the drop pass on Monday night with 2 touchdowns and 147 yards rushing. Alvin Kamara, as we talked about, had 87 yards rushing. Jalen Hurts also had 25 yards rushing. Dallas Goedert, who I talked about, I don't know who's still on the line, but Dallas Goedert, the tight end for Philadelphia, did not score a touchdown, but he had a breakout 170 yards receiving, his best receiving day as a professional, I believe I read earlier. Chris Olave, who I had my knock against him, okay, if you can say that there was a knock, was that he wasn't scoring. He got his first touchdown of the season, and he logged 86 yards receiving. So he 86 yards receiving and 1 touchdown for Chris Olave. All right. So that was really the story there. I mean, Jalen Hurts, 29 of 38 passing with 311 yards, a real good day for him, but he did not throw for a touchdown. So he's it's going to hurt his fantasy points overall. All right, let's look and see who else. We've gone over a lot of the scores at halftime. The Packers destroyed. Let's look at the Giants and the Browns now. Giants and the Browns. Daniel Jones had a good day for the Giants. As I said earlier, I think Cleveland makes almost any opponent look good. Daniel Jones, the quarterback for the Giants, had 236 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Now, Deshaun Watson had 196 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions for either quarterback. So pretty clean days for both of them. Not huge yardage passing wise, but the 2 touchdowns I'll take as a fantasy owner every week. Devin Singletary, the running back for the Giants, had 65 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. So a decent day for him. Jerome Ford, a name that was thrown around a lot this week, for Cleveland had no touchdowns and just 37 yards rushing. One of the big stories today, outside of Amari Cooper scoring 2 and Jawan Jennings so far scoring 2 for San Francisco, was Malik Neighbors had 78 yards receiving for the Giants and 2 touchdowns. So Neighbors is for real, and I'll have to add him to the list actually. And also going over to Cleveland, Amari Cooper had 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's kind of the breakdown of the Giants Cleveland. Now you say, who cares? Both teams are pretty bad, but it goes back to my theory that whoever the Browns play, they make look good. They took an 0-2 team and made them 1-2 and made them look really good. Malik Neighbors, again, had 2 touchdowns. I'll have to add that to this. Malik Neighbors. I don't know how to spell. People on TikTok can see me spelling that. All right. So that's number 9 point. Malik Neighbor had 2 touchdowns for the Giants. All right. What other scores can we look at here? Oh, the third has started in some of these games. We'll jump up to them in a second. Did we look at the Browns and Colts? I don't think we did. Let's look at the Browns, the Bears and Colts. Okay, the Colts won, but Caleb Williams, as I said earlier, had 363 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, but he did have 2 interceptions. Now, that's not quite the ratio that you want, but 2 touchdowns, 363 yards, I'll even take that with the 2 interceptions. He had so many yards passing. You just don't think of Caleb Williams as having a 363 2-touchdown day. Anthony Richardson, his numbers not so good. I know in week 1 he put up some really nice numbers, but he had only 167 yards passing and no touchdowns with 2 interceptions. Jonathan Taylor for Indianapolis rushed for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Trey Sermon added the 3rd touchdown for the Colts. The Bears were led in rushing by Rashawn Johnson with 30 yards, not much to speak of. Rome Odunze had 112 yards receiving and 1 touchdown for Chicago. And Cole Kmet had 97 yards receiving and 1 touchdown for the Bears. And Alec Pierce led Indianapolis with 44 yards receiving. Jonathan Taylor ran for 2 touchdowns. I'm going to add him to the list too. So then now we have a good round number of 10 folks. I still can't spell, but that doesn't matter, I guess, right? All right. Let's get back to it in the third here. All right, and don't forget, if you're watching right now on YouTube and Twitch, hit that like button, hit those subscribe buttons. I like to do fantasy every Wednesday night. Sometimes I'm going to try to do it on Thursdays, just before Thursday night football. I'll do it on Sundays, maybe Sunday mornings. And then on TikTok, don't forget to hit follow. Don't forget to hit like. I will be, as I said, I'll be live streaming on TikTok on Wednesdays, Thursdays. I did it last night because I didn't have anything to do. And on Sundays, I do a lot more live streaming regarding fantasy on TikTok than I do YouTube because there's constant questions. All right. Let me just get the latest. I'm refreshing the page. Panthers still up 21-7. Dolphins getting beat 17-3 by the Seahawks. Ravens up 21-6 at halftime. And just starting the third are the Niners and Rams. Niners lead 14-7. And they're underway about 30 seconds. 14-28 in left in the third. The Lions leading the Cardinals 20-10. All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I am probably going to log off. But before I go, while you're still here, don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe or follow if you're on TikTok. I talk fantasy throughout the week, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays, and probably other days when I'm available. So you'll learn, you'll figure out when I'm on, you'll find out when I'm on. So don't forget to follow, don't forget to subscribe, and definitely like. And I'll be live throughout the entire NFL season, and I'm here to help with all of your fantasy needs. So thank you all for watching. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for joining, and enjoy your Sunday of football.